Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse from Law Astrology, and in this recording I'm going to be addressing what is happening right now in America. This has come from the fact that I've had some people asking me, namely Steph and Mary and also Elizabeth as well, who have been asking me to address what's going on at the moment with this huge hearing that is happening, has captivated the world's attention. And with the issue of basically sort of women and patriarchy and how we are dealing with women not being heard, women not being listened to, women who are now coming out and telling their stories and telling their truths, and what the response is to that. These are really serious times. All day I've had the song The Burning Times going through my mind. If you've never heard it, it's by Christine Blasey Ford, an old Irish artist. And it's a fantastic song which is all based on the burning times that occurred many moons ago, many years ago in the Dark Ages, starting in the Dark Ages, where back then sort of women were still vilified for living the truth of their spirituality in those times and so on. And it feels like that. Now, it feels like a witch hunt, basically. It feels like a witch hunt that's going on right now. That's how I'm experiencing this. I'm certainly feeling very triggered by a lot of the discussion that's going on right now. And it's one of the reasons that I haven't addressed all of this. I mean, one side of it was just that I've been super busy, and the other side is that there's so much material coming out of this that as a woman, certainly I can react to, it's pressing my buttons, both as, a woman who has been on the receiving end of the negative side of patriarchy, full stop, and also as a woman who's been on the direct receiving end of a man who has attacked me. So this is hard stuff, and I know it's hard for a lot of people to hear and to listen to, but I think it's important that we look at it and to see what's going on an astrological level. I have literally just sat down and opened the chart, and aside from looking up a couple of Sabian symbols, I haven't done any sort of basic preparation. I don't have the time at the moment to do that. But to be honest, my immediate feeling when I opened the chart, literally I got goosebumps, because there is so much that is going on in this chart right now, the chart for the United States, that is so expressive of these energies. And this is what I want to talk about, because everyone is saying, what is happening, what's going on, why now, why this, what's it all about? And I'm going to see if I can kind of unpick this from the chart. The first thing is that at the moment, the US is going through, or just kind of been through, their nodal return. So in other words, what that means is the North Node has returned to where it was when the country was kind of born, and so has the South Node returned to the point where it was when the country was born. And so we have this idea then that the United States as a whole, as a country, is now coming to a point where it must deal with its karma. It must deal with what was. These are consequences. There are consequences from the past. I don't like to think of karma as in sort of crime and punishment, but there are consequences for how we acted in the past. And it must grow, it must move forwards. And so the nodal return both sort of for a country and also for a person. It brings to our attention what needs to be done as far as our soul's growth and our evolution is concerned, and it really brings that up for review, and it makes it more prominent in our lives. You become more aware that there are synchronistic events occurring, and I think that's what's happening, certainly for a lot of my friends over there in the US who are getting experiences or feelings that this feels almost fated. It kind of feels a fated sort of situation. Not fate as in bad, but just something has been set in motion that must be completed, that must be done. So that's the first thing. The exact date, I don't have it in front of me, but it was in the last sort of few months. But it's still in effect because the North Node is currently at 3 degrees of Leo, and the country's North Node is at 6 degrees of Leo. So it's still very much in effect. So that's the first thing that's going on. Lots of people are also talking about the fact that it's the Pluto return for the US as well. That actually doesn't happen until, let me just have a look at my quick note that I made on here. So that doesn't actually happen until 2022. But yes, the Pluto in the charts is in Capricorn, and now we have Pluto in Capricorn. So we are building up towards that. What is most notable is the progressed chart. Now, in case you don't know what the progressed chart is, the progressed chart is basically a chart that kind of grows up like we do. So we can have a personal progressed chart, and we can have a progressed chart for a country as well. It shows the growth. It shows the sort of development over time. And it's a very important chart. Now, we're dealing with matters that are associated with sex and sexuality, with abuse, with power, with kind of the abuse of power, and patriarchy. And the sort of planet that we look at is Pluto, because Pluto is about power and control, domination. Pluto is about abuse. It's also sort of a very psychological planet as well. And it's currently moving through the sign of Capricorn, the sign that's ruled actually by Saturn. And Capricorn is very much about the status quo, the establishment, the system, the patriarchy. Pluto moving through Capricorn has been slowly changing this. It's changing the structure of everything. It's changing the structure of our society. But Pluto is the one that we really need to address when we're looking at issues to do with power, control, abuse, and certainly sexual abuse. So, in this progressed chart, what's immediately obvious is the US's Pluto is currently on the 29th degree of Capricorn. So by progression, Pluto, the planet of power and abuse, is currently on the anoretic 29th, what we call critical degree. It is now critical. The effect of Pluto is now critical. The thing is with Pluto, it's like when it's working sort of negatively, when there's the shadow stuff is coming out, Pluto will hold on for sort of grim death, you know. It will hold on to everything. It will not let go the reins of power. It doesn't want to let go. There is an almighty struggle connected to power and the system and patriarchy in the US at the moment, with Pluto being on this critical degree. Wait until you hear the Sabian symbol that progressed Pluto is sitting on. Seriously, you cannot make this shit up. The Sabian symbol is a secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. Could we get any more accurate from the Sabian symbols? So now that we know this, we see this Pluto then is being very specific that the reins of power are held in secret by men. And with Pluto being on this degree, this is where we get this idea. It's those who are sort of holding these reins of power in the back rooms of these offices. They don't want to let go. They aren't going to let go. They're fighting to keep that control, that executive control. And it's specific that it's men. What's important to remember is that things won't stay like this forever. Pluto won't stay on this degree forever, but it might feel a little bit like that for some of us, because it won't actually change signs until June 2049. So that's a long time until Pluto actually moves off this degree. But it doesn't mean that we won't have any change, any positive change before that time. It doesn't mean that that women cannot get any kind of equality. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't bother trying, etc. I'm just pointing out that Pluto will be on this 29th degree for a very long time, but that makes sense. You know, it's a chart of a country. It's taken a very, 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 very long time for things to develop as they have. And so therefore it's going to take Pluto a very long time to deconstruct all of this. But there will be a big deconstruction start, you know, kind of like a sort of bulldozer moving in when we have Pluto return, so Pluto by transit, which, as I say, is in 2022. So there will be a big start then, a very, very big shift will start to occur then. But if we're sort of looking at this really big picture, then we are sort of looking to 2049 for when progressed Pluto goes into Aquarius. Aquarius, the sign of things that are new and progression, you know, that there is a shift towards progression. But let's bring it back to now. So we've got Pluto on this anaretic degree, 29th degree of Capricorn, on the secret meeting of men. Sabian symbol. What is absolutely captivating is that Venus, the love goddess, as in a divine feminine symbol, is also anaretic in the chart in the chart of the US, in the progressed chart. And it's actually squaring, Venus is actually squaring Pluto. So immediately then we've got this tension between Pluto, the abuser, the power, the control, the dark side, the fearful side, the monster, because Pluto is the shadow underneath, you know, everything, and the darkness. And then Venus, the love goddess, the divine feminine, who is struggling in the sign of Aries, where she doesn't function quite so well. And she too is at this critical degree. So everything feels critical in this chart, in specific reference to women and love. And we've got, of course, the juxtaposition of love, Venus, and sex, Pluto. So we've got all of that sort of exposed, and that's also Pluto. Pluto exposes everything. The positive to Pluto, of course, is truth. That's something I haven't mentioned and extremely important. And that's exactly what we need right now. We need the truth. We need to hear the truth. We need to unearth the truth, bearing in mind Pluto in the sign of the earthy sign of Capricorn. So we need to be unearthing the truth. We need to be digging up the truth, digging up the past. It's all part of this process. But yes, of course, incredibly painful. Transiting Uranus has been conjunct progressed Venus, whilst progressed Venus is on this anaretic degree of Aries. Uranus is the awakener. So we are being awakened, our eyes are being opened, women are opening our eyes as a culture, as a race, to everything that has been occurring. And so we get this idea then that these are shocking times. These are times where we feel everything is quite unstable. We feel shaken, as women particularly, we feel shaken by what is happening. But at the same time, again, we get that idea that this is a time of enlightenment, of new perspectives that are coming through. So even though it is difficult and shocking and can make us shake and make us feel anxious, especially if we're triggered, bearing in mind, Uranus has just been moving through the sign of Aries. He's now in Taurus, but he's kind of going to back up into Aries again. So we're still having that feeling of being triggered. And again, that is where Venus is anyway, in the sign of Aries, which is associated with things like guns, for example. So this is where we get the word triggered from. We are being triggered by this, and it is shocking. And it makes everything feel unstable. But still there is the necessity, if we see it sort of from an astrological point of view, that we now air these stories, because it's new information. It's new information that's going to change our perspective. The stories have to be told for the perspectives to be changed. And again, going back to Pluto, we must hear the truth. The truth will out, with Pluto being on that 29th anaretic degree. The fact that we've got Pluto return coming up as well in the next few years, the truth has to come out. It's like X-ray vision, Pluto, because that is the way to true power. True power comes from the truth. You can't keep the sort of reins of power when it's all based on a lie. It's like from a universal sort of point of view, it's almost like it's kind of saying, it will change. Things will transform. Everything, dies. We could sort of say it that way, that nothing lives forever, including a country, including a system, including a government. It doesn't last forever, and that's what we see with astrology. Everything changes over time. The other thing that's important sort of with this progress chart, and I'm sort of staying with it because there's so much. This is why I was getting really animated when I was looking at this chart, because it's just singing all of the information that's kind of happening right now. It is so expressive of what's happening right now. We've got another sort of feature of this chart is that the progressed moon, so the moon is the temperament of the people at the moment, the mood of the country. The moon has just moved into Capricorn, so the mood is quite serious. But the moon, of course, again, is another figure of the divine feminine. And the moon is actually conjunct transiting Saturn right now. It's not exact, but it is going to become exact. And that's going to actually be in August in 2019. But we're working our way up to it now, because at the moment the progressed moon is on 2 degrees of Capricorn, and Saturn by transit is on 2 degrees of Capricorn. So they're pretty much there. This feature is called Saturn chasing the moon. And it's actually going to occur between August 2019 and July 2022. How interesting that this is the lead up to the Pluto return, which is happening in 2022. So we've got the divine feminine again shown with the moon. And then we've also got the divine masculine shown by Saturn. We could also say, and sometimes I do say to my clients that have Saturn chasing the moon in their own charts, it's not a feature that everyone will experience in their lives, but some people do, that the moon and Saturn, it's like your kind of inner mum and dad, it's like your inner parents. And here there's like a call for unity with the two sort of coming together. But another thing that we could say with the moon and Saturn coming together, because the moon can also be a child as well. And it really is like a cosmic, we need to grow up now. We need to grow up. And 7 times the cosmos is saying, we need to grow up now. We need to respect Saturn, women, the moon. We need to put women in authority. That's also Saturn. Another key word for Saturn is authority. We need to restructure in a way that embraces women. Something else that is interesting with this particular feature, this Saturn chasing the moon, is that during this time, as this is kind of building up, we're also going to have the transiting nodes moving into Cancer and Capricorn. I've just written an article about this, which I've sent to Infinity Astrological magazine, so hopefully you might see it in there at some point, and I will be making a video on this anyway. But the North Node moving into Cancer, which is going to be a little bit later this year in November, the North Node moving into Cancer, Cancer is feminine. Cancer is about home and family and women and mothers and nurturing and childhood and sort of feeling. It's about feeling. And so already the nodes are going to be guiding us towards, we've got to be more responsive, we've got to be more caring, we've got to be more kind, we've got to focus on mother and women. I even put in my article actually that, you know, maybe there might be sort of some growth in religious and spiritual paths that have the divine feminine as front and centre, such as paganism and witchcraft, for example. So yes, to sort of answer what Mary was asking me on Facebook, yes, I do think that it's going to be important and helpful that the North Node is moving into Cancer, because we've got to move away from this very stuffy structure of Capricorn. We've got to move away from how things have been. We've got to move away from not talking about it or not feeling, because Capricorn, the shadow side of Capricorn, there's good sides, you know, to all signs, of course, but the shadow side of Capricorn, which is what's going to come out with the South Node when it moves through that sign. The shadow side is, you know, sort of very dry and not showing any feelings and expecting you to just get on with it, put up and shut up. But the North Node in Cancer is not going to have that, because Cancer also has claws. You know, Cancer is the crab. Cancer is a sign that is very, very tenacious and will sure as hell protect its family and protect those that need protecting, you know, the care, the nurturer, the mothering. So we are being guided towards something that is more feminine in sort of origin, so that we can begin to deal with these very big shifts and very big changes. Now that's for all of us, the North Node transit through Cancer, but I think it is important sort of in relation to what is happening here, because the North Node will be ruled by the Moon and the South Node will be ruled by Saturn, and this Moon-Saturn connection is going to be happening in the US chart over and over again 7 times. You know, it reminds me of that phrase, you give me a child when they are 7 and I will give you the man. There's some sort of feeling on here, this very important growth period where the cosmos is saying, yes, you must grow up now as a country, you know, it must grow, it must change, and the respect, Saturn, for women has got to be part of this. If we just come back to the progressed Venus for a moment, because I just realised that I haven't mentioned the Sabian symbol of that, and it's a duck pond and its brood. So with Pluto, we've got the executive men in sort of behind closed doors making all these big decisions of world affairs. But then the divine feminine character, which is kind of critical right now, is on this very soft and nurturing and kind and rather vulnerable Sabian symbol. We can kind of imagine, you know, a mother duck and her little ducklings on the water, and what do we feel? We want to protect them. We want to make sure that they're okay. We want to make sure that nothing's out to get them. But Pluto's out to get them at the moment. That's how it feels with a square. But again, we have to remember that Pluto is also the truth. So even though we as women, and certainly, you know, the women who are out there at the moment speaking up, out there on the world stage, having to bare their hearts and be vulnerable, we can see that actually all of this truth is about handing us back power. And I should state, you know, I don't feel like it should be all or nothing, because Pluto also can unfortunately make things very black and white, as in very extreme. Things feel extreme right now in the United States and kind of rippling out across the world, because these stories are all coming out and it's affecting all of us everywhere that's hearing it. So things can feel very extreme, very black and white. It's like there's no grey areas. It's like they're either lying or they're being honest, or it's, you know, there's no grey areas, and that can become very, very difficult. That it really sets up this real deep and passionate conflict, because everybody is, you know, I'm either on this side or I'm on that side, and there's nothing in the middle. And so we've also got to be aware of that as well, that there are sometimes some grey areas, and we can't sort of ignore those. But still, we do have this feeling that there is this very unsavory stuff that is coming up, and that must now be aired, even if it makes us feel vulnerable, because it's time. And you know, like I said, nothing can stay the same. Things cannot stay the same. We can't grow when we're living a lie. We can't grow when we're living a lie. At this point in time, we've got Jupiter coming to the end of his journey through Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign ruled by Pluto. It's a sign, again, associated with sex, with power dynamics, with complexes, with deep issues, with truth. And when Jupiter first moved into Scorpio, one of the analogies that I use, bearing in mind that Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system, is that it's pretty much like the elephant in the room is kind of being talked about, because you can't hide an elephant. You know, you can't hide Jupiter in Scorpio. Scorpio always wants to hide stuff. You know, it wants to keep secrets, because secrets are powerful. But Jupiter's just like, no, not anymore. You cannot hold these secrets. The truth has to come out. And so that's part of it. Right now, we're also coming up to Venus, again, the divine feminine, the ruler of, one of the symbols of women. She is going to be going retrograde shortly as well. I'm on just looking at my planner, on the 5th of October. So 5th of October until about the 6th of November, Venus is going to be retrograde, again in the sign of Scorpio. So we may see more information coming out around this time, but I think it's important that maybe there will be some kind of shift, whatever's being decided now, because I know that there is a vote, and even by the time I've finished recording this, I don't know whether the vote will have happened, but there's more to come, I think, because Venus is currently in the shadow of this retrograde period. And so she has more to say, basically. She's going deeper, whether it is because there are other women who are going to be stepping forward and whose accounts need to be heard, I don't know. But symbolically, we do get the idea that Venus being retrograde in Scorpio is really digging deep again, and she's unearthing these stories of where there has been abuse instead of love. You know, love is what Venus thrives on. That's what she wants. She wants harmony. She wants equality. I mean, she rules the sign of the signs of Taurus and Libra. So if you think of Libra, the scales, this is where we get the idea that Venus wants equality. She wants balance. It's not that she wants to have more than men. She just wants to be treated as an equal, and for our relationships to flourish, which is Taurus. Taurus is kind of the farming symbol. It's a very natural, earthy symbol. It's kind of, you know, agriculture and fields and blossoming. For life to blossom, then we need to be able to have some kind of harmony between us, between all of us. Now, just to sort of give a little hope, because I'm aware that sort of saying that Pluto isn't going to move into Aquarius until like the 2049, which seems a long way away. Venus is going to move into Taurus, and she's actually going to move into Taurus next year. So it's going to be August 2019. August 2019, progressed Venus in the US chart will move into Taurus. And as I've just said, Venus rules Taurus. She's the ruler of Taurus. Therefore, Venus moving into Taurus is going to give Venus women more power, a feeling that they are beginning to return to the throne, you know, a feeling that they are being allowed to flourish. And being allowed, you know, this is a Capricorn thing and a Saturn thing. Saturn gives us permission, but we shouldn't have to ask for permission to flourish. It should just be a natural, organic process, much like the sign of Taurus. So maybe Venus moving into Taurus will help us to do that, will help make this relationship, this difficult relationship that has come from this very complex and corrupt system, maybe eventually it will come to a point where we can organically begin to grow and flourish as people, as women and as men, and that we can all blossom in this world. So I hope that you have found this helpful. I will put a link in the box below so that you can access the charts. I will put the charts that I'm talking about on my website so you can actually see them. If you are interested in following me any further or supporting my work, I do have a Patreon as well. I offer various levels of rewards for patrons over there. If you'd like to take a look, I will also put the link below. Meanwhile, thank you very much for listening and many blessings on your path.